Hi Corey, hi Danielle, this is George Sherritt. I just finished doing your inspection and I'm going to do that review video I told you about. So this is the front of the house. It's not really something I put in my report, but there are no numbers on the house. So like, if you called 911, they might have a hard time finding it. So I'd recommend, like over the garage here, put the numbers of the house up there really clearly. It is on a post at the driveway a ways back, but it's always nice to have it on the house. So the house has several different vents for the attic. There's vents at the eaves, which we usually call bird blocks. They're the ones with the holes in them down low. And then up high, there's a continuous ridge vent. And then there's also gable end vents. And all the manufacturers of the ridge vent products recommend that you not use them with gable end vents. And the reasoning behind that is the attic's triangular shaped. And so you want convection. You want cooler air coming in from the bottom through the lower vents and rising up through the entire attic and then going out the top. And when you have gable end vents like this, that sort of short circuits that process. So it sounds really counterintuitive, but this attic would probably vent better if somebody got up there with some plastic and a staple gun and sealed these two gable end vents that are on the upper part of the house. I didn't see any signs that the roof wasn't venting well, but that's just what building science tells us. There it is again. This is on the back side, same thing, but I took this because there's some paper wasp nests starting to form up here. There'd been some others that looked like the owners had gotten rid of, but these guys are pretty quick to rebuild, so having those removed would be my suggestion. Also, I took this because there's a fan in the attic here, and we'll come back to that when I get to the attic. I have the same thing at my house. Looks like the dog ran through the screen door out to the back patio. If you have a dog, you might find it convenient like I do, or you could have it fixed. Hold on, I got ahead of myself. So now we're going to look at the outbuilding. Nice looking shop. These white boards are called barge rafters, and on the main house, the roofer continued his roofing. He cut a strip and ran it out past the end of the barge rafter so that water would drip out here past what's called the plumb cut and keep it dry. And they tend to rot when they're left like this because they stay wet a lot. It looks like someone's taken a handsaw right here and started to make a cut, like they knew that was going to be a problem, so they were just going to cut them off. That's an option. You end up staring at the end of the gutter cap, and some people find that, unsightly. That's why they run it past. But I'd suggest one of the two. Either cut them off and paint that cut, or protect this with either metal flashing or roofing to extend its life. The whole thing's never been painted or stained, including the soffits there. I'm standing on the ground looking up at the OSB. So I'd recommend the structure be stained or painted to protect the wood. Same thing here, that's the siding. The siding is a plywood, rough sawn plywood with strips every 16 inches. It's called board and bat. And mostly they're cosmetic. Where the seams are, it does help keep water out. But the other thing normally you want to do is that the siding should run down past the wood framing and down onto the concrete foundation, at least say a ½ inch. And they came up about 1.5 inches short here. So potentially rainwater is going to hit this and go underneath the mud sill and come inside. It won't be a tremendous amount of water, but that should be addressed. And then I came around the corner and they were aware of that, it looks like. And so they've taken this trim board and started at one corner coming this way, and probably had intentions to go around the whole structure to seal that. So that would be a good way to handle that. You'd want to caulk the top of that and monitor it to make sure it stays caulked. The electrical panel inside the garage was fine. It was 125 maximum amps, and it was wired correctly. The garage is really full of the owner's stuff, and so I couldn't see the exterior walls very thoroughly. I walked along with a very bright flashlight and did the best I could, but I just have to let you know I couldn't see everything in terms of the walls. Everything that I could see looked fine. I saw no wood rot. I saw no pest damage. Everything seemed to be constructed very well. This is one of the electrical panels by the entrance door. It's broken, so I'd recommend that be replaced. From the inside, the right-hand garage door, the little electronic eyes are out of adjustment, and so when you press the button and the door goes down, it hits the concrete and then goes back up again, and that's because they're either obstructed, which I didn't see, or they're out of line. So have a garage door installer correct that. You can hold the button down and make it stay down, or you can disconnect it here, which is the way I found it. So I was curious why it was disconnected, and then I found out. And I re-unconnected it when I was done. This won't, well, I will put this in my report. This is one of the shutoffs. This builder puts a water shutoff inside an interior closet. It's just a convenience. You know, if you had a leak or you wanted to change something out, you could shut it off right here rather than go out to the well house. The stove is a modern stove. It came with something called an anti-tipping device. And the idea is that if you had a pot of boiling water on the stove and you open the oven door and put weight on it, and you pull out a heavy turkey or a child comes and puts weight on it, the stove can easily tip up, and that whatever's hot on the stove surface can slide off. So it's just a simple little plate that screws to the floor that one of the back legs keys into. So I'd recommend you install one of those. It's an occupied house, so the closets are all really pretty jammed full, like they almost always are in an occupied house. And that's another example. You know, I can't see it, I can't tell you about it. There's another just example of the closets. You have little Cadet wall blowers, and there's about a dozen Cadet models that have been recalled. And so I always get down on my hands and knees and I'm looking at the data plate here. Unfortunately, when whoever painted, they took the covers off, but then they got paint all over the inside, and it doesn't hurt anything, although I can't read the label. So I kept looking at every one I came to. Here's another one, and I thought I was going to get to see it because there's less paint, but they had obscured the model number. So I only found one, and the model number is RM, and that's not a recalled model. I think based on the age of the house, they're probably all RMs, but I can't say because I can't see them. So if that concerns you, you know, either have an electrician look at them or get some paint remover and remove the paint, and hopefully not the factory writing, and find out what model they are. And look them up on the internet. It's really easy to find. It's unlikely, like I said, based on the age of the house, that they're recalled models. But if I can't see, I can't say for sure. This is the hot water heater. It was really tucked back in a closet and pretty obscured, but I was eventually able to see everything. It's made by A.R. Smith. It's original to the house. It has its earthquake straps. It has a pan with a dedicated drain to the outside, so that's all good. There's a little valve at the top here. It's called a temperature pressure release valve. It's probably one of the most important safety features in a home. They rarely open, but if they're called to open because the pressure and the temperature have gotten too high in there, it's really important that they be able to freely discharge. And so they come with a yellow tag that has all kinds of, you know, you must do this and you must do that when you install it. Things like, you know, you can only have 4 elbows, and because every time you put an elbow in, it restricts the flow. The other thing is pipe length. It can't be longer than 30 feet, and this is considerably longer. This is probably 70 feet. It just goes through the closet here, down and into the crawl space, but I found it in the crawl space, and they went probably to what was the closest vent, which is where they usually exit, and for some reason took a 90-degree right-hand turn and went the full length of the house to some other vent. So I don't know why that was done, but I would recommend you have a plumber shorten that up just to adhere to those installation requirements, because it's kind of like an airbag. You're probably never ever going to need it, but you'd want to know it was properly installed if it came into play. I don't see any carbon monoxide alarms in the house. I do see smoke alarms as required. State law now says sellers must provide carbon monoxide alarms. I had the young gal that was here who's a friend of the owners. I heard her say that they were here, but I looked and couldn't find them. They need to be what's called in close proximity to the bedrooms. So you could put one here and make an argument that it's in close proximity to all the bedrooms. So now I'm up in the attic. This is that attic fan. It's a little counterintuitive, but building science, which is actually, you know, testing the ideas that we have, like the idea that if you put a fan in the attic and draw warm air out, it's going to make your house cooler. Truth is, it doesn't. If your house is insulated, if the ceiling is insulated to modern standards, it doesn't at all affect the inside temperature of the house. So it's really a waste of electricity. And I learned that at a building science conference about 3 months after I had one installed in my house. So I don't use it anymore. So if you want, you know, look up building science and then look that up if you have questions about it. But I'd recommend you just turn it off and use your electricity for something else. like a ductless heat pump, and I talked to David, your agent, about that and gave him some literature that maybe he'll pass on to you. This house would be ideal for a ductless heat pump, and it would probably cut your electric bill in half. This is, I'm headed to the crawl space to go under the house, and I noticed this vent is compromised enough that a mouse could easily get in there or a rat could get in here. So I'd recommend any screens that are damaged be repaired so you don't have rodents under the house. That's where it is, next to the entrance. The plastic's missing from under the house in a few places where the dirt is exposed. The purpose of the plastic is a vapor barrier to keep moisture from coming up out of the ground and getting into the wood structure. We have beetles in this area called anabid beetles. Contractors call them powder post beetles, and they like a wood content, moisture content between 14 and 20%. And if you put plastic down and you vent the crawl space properly, it hovers right around 14%. So if you don't do any of those things, it goes above that, and then it's an invitation for these beetles. So I'd recommend the plastic be continuous over the dirt in the whole crawl space. The other thing you can see in this picture is the mud on the footing here. This is a sign that there's been standing water in the crawl space in the past, and that's 8 inches of standing water. So at different times, there's been quite a lot of standing water under the house. Again, I mentioned that to Shanna, the young woman who's here to represent the sellers, and she said that they disclosed that, and that also they had hooked up tight-line drains, pipes, to the downspouts and directed them away from the house. I'm only here for a few hours. I have no way to know, did that solve the problem? Did it make it better? It certainly wouldn't make it worse. So all I can really say is there's been water under the house in the past, and some corrective measures have been taken. You need to monitor that and see if it has actually completely fixed it. It's most likely, what am I trying to say? Most likely that was the problem, and most likely that solution they've applied has corrected the problem. But again, I'm here in August, in the middle of August, our driest month of the year. So in February, go down there and crawl the crawl space and see if it's wet after it's rained for 60 days. If you find that it's wet, call a drainage contractor, and they'll suggest the next thing to do to help keep it dry. It's a curable problem, and the sellers have done the first large obvious step in correcting, and it might have fixed it. I have no idea what that was. Oh, so there was some standing water under the plastic in a few places. It's not a lot of water, but there is still water. And like I said, it's August. You look on a chart of rainfall for Washington State, this is our driest month. Just more, this is still damp. It's been wet recently. So I don't know the timeline of when they extended the downspouts. This was, I was trying to find that pipe off the hot water heater I mentioned before, and this is it. You can see it comes kind of over my head here, down and right to this vent, and then for some reason they ran it this way, all the way the full length of the house down there, another 35 feet. So I'd recommend you have a plumber shorten it to here and just run it out through this vent screen right here. This is the dryer vent, and it exits on one side, and you could have this come out the other side, and it would shorten it enough that it would probably comply with that 30-foot requirement. This is more just signs of past water. That was this morning's project. So if you listen to this and you've read through my report and you have any questions, you're more than welcome to call me on the phone. Thanks for your business. And I've taken your water sample. I'm going to drop it by the lab on my way home. And that's it. Thank you.